Court's back in session. Have a jury, please.
Stay standing for the jury.
You may proceed, Mr. Chief.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Santos, we were talking earlier about the murder you confessed to when you were incarcerated in Nevada. Isn't it true you've also confessed to two other murders in which there was never a dead body associated with them?
Refresh my memory, I don't recall what you
I think one of them's in Miami, another one's in Kentucky.
Oh, yeah, you sent some investigators to see me. I didn't really want to talk to them.
Okay.
I don't talk to the state. I'm on an active compound. We're not allowed to talk to state investigators or state prosecutors or any of that.
You're not?
No.
You don't want to talk to state prosecutors, state investigators?
No, sir.
Okay. Certainly write plenty of letters to the court.
Yes, to the judge and to the defense, but not to the state.
Yeah. And in that you confessed to two murders, one in Miami, one in Kentucky, in which there were no dead persons by those names.
You mean in a letter?
No.
Oh.
You told investigators about.
Oh yeah, I didn't want to talk to the guy. I told him that before we even had the conversation.
So who was it you told about these murders?
Some investigator you sent. I just remember he was a white guy with black hair.
Okay. So you did talk to a state investigator, and you told him about these two murders that there was never a dead body about, correct?
Yes, I told him I didn't want anything to do with him, and he kept wanting to talk. So.
Let's talk a little bit about your incarceration.
Yes, sir. Which one?
You were incarcerated from 1991 to 1994, and again from 1995 to 1996 in Georgia, correct?
From 95 to 96?
From 1991
Yes.
to 1994,
Yes.
and then again from 95 to 96.
No.
No?
No. What's that for? What is
Violation there in Georgia for robbery?
No.
No?
I completed the sentence on the robbery charge.
Okay.
I discharged that sentence.
All right. And then in 1997, you were actually sentenced to another 12 months of probation, and again in Morrow County, correct?
Yes.
Then in Las Vegas, Nevada, you were sentenced to, in 1998, you were sentenced to 54 months in Department of Correction. That's the one we've already talked about.
Yes.
You arrested again in Georgia, in which you spent almost 7 months in 2002.
No, I don't recall that.
And you're actually that Georgia arrest in Gwinnett County. Remember that one, arrested in 2001?
No.
Don't remember that one?
No, sir.
Okay. Miami, 2006, sentenced to 5 years in prison.
Yes. I caught that case in 03.
Right, okay. And then you had another case in 04 that was the same thing, sentenced in 06 for 12 years in prison.
Yes, sir.
All right. And total incarceration for Florida is 2003, you were incarcerated, 2004, and then 2004 to 2016, correct?
Yes. And I went from state to federal prison. I haven't been out yet.
Okay, and in 2010, you went to federal prison, correct?
Yes.
And that's 10 years.
Yes.
Not a single one of those for drugs, were they?
No.
All your convictions are for theft and crimes of dishonesty, are they not?
Not all of them, but yeah, the majority of them are for robbery and things of that nature. The case in Miami, however, was I went to go and collect some money from a guy at a hotel that owed me money, and things got nasty. I ended up robbing him, and the lady at the hotel attempted to call the police, so I robbed her.
Not a single one for narcotics, right?
No. Well, yeah, and, in '89, yeah, I had a drug charge.
And Mr. Santos, isn't it also true that at some point you've claimed to be from Nigeria?
No,
No, it's not?
no.
Isn't it true you've also said to the United States Marshal Service that sometimes you hear voices speaking to you?
To the marshals?
Yeah.
No, sir.
Or any other person as far as federal custody?
No.
Mayor Fortune? Place of birth. What does it say?
Nigeria.
Nigeria, right?
Yes.
All right, so you told somebody from Nigeria, right?
No,
No, you didn't tell them that?
no, no,
All
sir.
right. Medical conditions. What does it say?
Chest
Well,
pains.
you witness in the jury, I'm afraid they're not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
To hear what's going on.
I'm sorry.
Chest pains, fainting, dizziness.
What's the next line say?
Claims to sometime hear voices speaking to him.
All right. You're saying you never told anybody that?
No, I'm saying that came from my state record.
So you did tell somebody that. It just came from your state record.
Yeah, that came from the transcripts from Nevada. If you look at my PSI in the feds, everything that they have is a carbon copy of what they have in Vegas. A
Right.
bunch of crap, a bunch of stuff.
So you have told people that you hear voices.
Yeah, a long time ago in Las Vegas, you said the U.S. Marshals. I told the U.S. Marshals that. I never told the U.S. Marshals that.
My mistake. But you told people that you hear voices.
Yes,
Okay.
in Vegas, Nevada, yeah.
All right. And at some point you told somebody your place of birth was Nigeria.
Never said that.
Never said that.
No, but I use so many different identities. However, like Silas Selassie, that guy is actually from Nigeria, so maybe they assume that I was him.
Okay.
You know, when I got busted in Miami, I had his driver's license
All right. So
So
you
you
use
did-
the identity
of 1,000 different people. Silas Selassie, Malik Johnson, Otis Jackson. I've used quite a few different.
and that person is Nigerian.
Yes.
So you're representing yourself to be Nigerian.
No, sir. I represented myself just to be this guy, so I could use his driver's license. That's all.
Okay. Your Honor, this time my name is State Exhibit number 154. And the evidence, please.
Sir, objection? No, that's fine. All right, it'll be admitted.
This is where it says place of birth is Nigerian, correct?
Yes.
And it says your name, correct?
Yes.
Not Silas, what was the other guy's name?
Silas Selassie.
Doesn't say Silas Selassie, does it?
No.
No. In fact, you previously told people that you have associates in Nigeria as well, correct?
Well, I do, yes.
Okay. You
lot.
have associates in Nigeria.
Of course, yeah. One of them is the guy whose driver's license I've used.
Are any of your associates the ones that contact me and tell me they may loan me some money through an email?
I don't know about that, but yeah, it's possible.
Okay. It's possible?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Back in 2010, 2011, you were contacted by law enforcement about this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you told Investigator Basio that you did not have Randy killed, that you actually met her through Kalo Green, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And that you were actually surprised she had been murdered. Well, you told law enforcement officer Investigator Basio, right?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
All right. And she was actually going to marry you, is what you told Investigator Basio back in 2010, 2011.
Yeah, I don't recall that.
You don't recall that?
No, sir.
Okay. And she was actually going to travel to Atlanta to get a new car for you. So I think you told us that.
That's the truth. Yes.
Okay. All right. Do you recall, back in October 18th of 2012, do you know someone by the name of Leon?
I know quite a few Leons.
Okay. Do you know somebody by the name of Leon that is associated with your vice lords, your Zetas, or something along those lines that is relevant?
Like I said, I know quite a few of them, yes.
All right.
One of them whose name I might have brought up some years ago.
All right, who would that be?
His friend, associate of mine, he was in prison.
He's in prison?
He was in prison at the time.
No, at time of what?
At the time that I brought his name up.
Okay. Who is he?
He's a vice lord.
All right. What does he do for the vice lords?
Quite a few things. Whatever needs done.
Like what?
He collects money if some money needs to be collected. Distributes narcotics if it needs to be distributed. That thing.
I'm sorry?
He collects money if money needs to be collected, or if narcotics need to be distributed. That sort of thing.
So he's kind of a money collector, narcotics guy for you?
Yes.
All right. He's one of those guys that works for you?
No, he don't work for me. He works for the organization.
He works for who?
He works for the organization. He doesn't work personally.
But I thought you were on the board of directors for this organization.
I am, sir.
So he works for you?
Yeah, I'm just one member. I'm just one board member, though. It's 34 other ones.
All right. So he works for you and 34 others?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Isn't it true that at one point you told law enforcement that Leon was actually the hitman that did the killing?
Yes.
You did tell law enforcement that?
Yes, sir.
Didn't tell us that, did you? Earlier.
No.
In fact, you only remember a female you didn't know the name of.
Yes.
Jit, who you confused his real name.
Yes.
And Angel are the only people you knew of.
Because Leon...
Didn't know anybody else, did you?
Leon was not a part of the hit squad, sir.
He wasn't?
No.
All right, but you told law enforcement back in October 18, 2012 that he was, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
All right.
He was in prison at that time. I was trying to keep from having to take the responsibility of this case myself. I thought maybe that I could kind of like, if I could, work things out with my organization so that I wouldn't, be stuck with the burden of this whole situation. It turns out, though, that it didn't work out in my favor.
I understand these stories are kind of hard to keep track of. I get that.
Well, not necessarily.
All right. Isn't it true in... Oh, let me get my date real quick. Make sure I get the right date. In a hearing, March 2014, you said that you didn't know anything about the murder and you don't know who did it or who ordered it.
In what hearing, sir?
I'm sorry?
You said a hearing?
Yeah.
In what hearing? I don't recall.
And the hearing in court in Tallahassee, Florida, March 3rd, 2014, in front of Jackie Fulford. Didn't you say that you didn't know anything about the murder, didn't know who did it, who ordered it?
If I recall, it was in front of Miss Fulford that I mentioned Smith.
Mr. Who?
Leon Smith. It was in front of that same judge that I mentioned him. So if I didn't know who did it, I certainly wouldn't have said, hey, this guy did it, and then come back and say, I don't know who did it.
It actually was in a phone conversation in 2012 with a law enforcement officer in October that you mentioned Leon. You didn't mention that at all in that hearing. Hard to keep those stories straight, isn't it?
No, I did mention his name in here, so.
One moment.
Page 60 for record purposes, lines 2 through 14 is what we're looking at. Read that to yourself, please.
that you knew nothing about this particular case?
Yes, I've made that statement twice, probably.
Okay. And in fact, you went on to tell them that you don't have anybody killed.
Sir?
You went on to tell them that you didn't have anybody killed.
Of course, I've been saying that since the situation happened.
No, you haven't, because you're here today.
Well,
telling
yes,
us you did.
I said since the situation happened, I was saying that, and then after I started having problems with my organization, then things changed, however.
One moment. Now, you told us earlier your secretary's name was what? Selena, what?
Hernandez,
Hernandez.
yes.
Isn't it true you previously told the
Alderman,
court?
Selena Alderman,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Different name there.
It's the same woman. She was married, she got a divorce, she's back Hernandez, same lady.
Oh, okay. Figured you'd have an answer for that one.
What was the last name?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
What was the last name you said?
Alderman? You said earlier that Miss Alderman, Mrs. Hernandez, is doing it because she's a sister of one of your associates, Carlos?
Yes.
All right. And she's doing it out of the goodness of her heart, or
No, she gets paid.
how much she get paid?
When she first started, it was like $500-600 a week. I don't know what it is now.
All right. Got any idea?
Maybe $1,000 a week now.
Maybe $1,000 a week?
She's not just my secretary. She's a secretary for quite a few of us that's incarcerated. So,
Man, she busy lady.
yeah. She circumvents mail, make phone calls, types letters, things of that nature.
Mr. Santos, didn't you say earlier in this testimony that she actually was working for free?
So,
Didn't you say earlier in this testimony here today that she was working for free?
no,
You didn't?
no.
Okay.
Nobody actually works for free, I would hope.
Back in June 2015, you were interviewed, and you were showing a picture, and you actually told law enforcement you didn't know anybody named Angel. Didn't you?
No, they showed me a phone of with a picture on it. I couldn't even make out what was on it, and I wasn't going to hold his phone and try to look at his phone. So,
Didn't you tell them that you didn't know anybody from an Angel, but you knew a Quiones that traffics drugs from Atlanta to Mexico?
yes,
Okay. Didn't know Angel. What you told them?
no, I think you got it confused. I didn't know his last name, Kunez. I knew Angel. They asked me if I knew Kunez, and I told them
Page 83.
I know quite a few Angels.
It's gonna be item number, no, different one, sorry. 7. All right, let's start here at 82 and go on to 83, if you can read that to yourself, please.
That's the name that was throwing me off.
Wait a minute, if you're gonna speak up loud.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Court reporter can get it.
The name that confused me was the Avila part. I didn't know him by that.
You told law enforcement, I don't know an angel.
Yes.
You told them that you did not know an angel. That you said you knew a Quiones,
Yes.
but not an angel.
Yes.
All right. And they actually showed you a photograph of Angel Avila, correct?
On the phone, yes.
And you couldn't identify him then either,
I
could you?
couldn't see the phone. I couldn't see the picture.
But today you say that you know Angel Avila, correct?
Yes, I know. Yes, I know him.
He's the, hold on, let me make sure I get it right. Tall, skinny Colombian, I think is what you called him. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Tall, skinny Colombian?
Yes, sir.
You said earlier today that you first met Mr. Avila when?
I want to say between 2000, 2001, somewhere around
2000, 2001?
there. Yes.
All right. Isn't it true back in January 2016 that you got introduced, that you told investigators or signed a sworn statement or received a sworn statement that you were introduced to Angel Avila in 1990s?
Yes, that's possible.
Yeah, it's hard to keep those stories straight, I understand, sir.
Yeah. 1990, you said?
Yeah, in the
No.
90s.
And in 1990, sir, I was in prison.
I understand you were in prison in 2000, some other times when you're claiming things happened too.
No, I was out of prison in 2000 and 2001, sir.
But I'm asking you, didn't you tell, involved in a sworn statement, and said that you were introduced to him in 1990s?
In the 90s,
Yeah,
yes.
in the 90s.
Yeah, because I assumed that it was between 99 and 2000 that we met.
Well, you told us earlier it was 2000, 2001.
Exactly.
Because in 1999, you
I
were
said-
actually incarcerated, weren't you? So you couldn't have met him.
No, I wasn't incarcerated in 99, sir.
You weren't?
No.
Okay. Thought we already talked about that in Vegas. February 2016. Again, you actually said at that time that you met Angel in Texas in the late 90s. Right?
Yes, between 99 and 2000.
In
That's
Texas.
That's what I mean by late.
Sure.
90s, yes.
But you said you met him in Texas.
Yes,
Texas is a long way from a strip club in Atlanta.
Atlanta, yes. I'm back and forth so much from Texas to Atlanta is,
Oh, sure, that gets confusing, I understand.
yeah.
But that strip club, you told us earlier, you spent all night with him there at that strip club in Atlanta.
Not quite all
You
night.
even
but
told us it was off of Buford Highway.
It's on Buford Highway.
Yeah, you knew exactly what. Told us the name. What was the name again?
Follies.
All right, that ain't in Texas, is it?
No, it's not.
It's not what you told told the law enforcement back in 2016, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. August 2nd, 2017. Testimony in court. Said you met Avila in the 1990s.
Yes. When I say 90s, I mean from 99 to 2000.
And you told us then that also that you had done dealings with him, and you also knew him in 2012, 2014. Correct?
Yes.
In 2017, at that point, you start saying that you ordered the murders, correct?
Yes, sir.
2018 again, you start saying you ordered the murders.
Yes, sir.
Okay. 2018 again, told Hankinson that Judge Hankinson a letter to him saying you ordered the murders, correct?
Yes, sir.
2019, this phone call we've already talked about said you wouldn't hurt anybody for $90,000, would you?
No,
That's what
sir.
you told Miss Little.
That's right.
Back in 2014, March 2014, you actually, in front of that hearing, Judge Fulford, you said she only owed like $80,000, correct?
Yes, I was off a lot. Like I'm off now a lot. It's a lot more than $90,000.
We can agree with that. You are off a lot more today. Mr. Santos, isn't it true that in this particular case you heard about the homicides?
No, sir, that's not true.
You hear about the homicides, and then you see publicity involving someone by the name of Angel Avila, and you decided at that point you were going to admit that you had involvement in this, and you sent Angel Avila in there to kill her, right?
No, sir.
First time you ever heard that name was watching the internet, right?
Watching the internet?
Yeah.
We don't have internet in the Fed, sir.
Really?
No, sir.
Didn't you already tell us you communicated through emails and mail?
Yes, sir.
Kind of hard to do email without internet, isn't it?
No, sir. In the Feds, you have true core links. That's all you have access to. You don't have access to the email.
Mr. Santos, earlier you told us today that you met Miss Brandy. Couldn't say what she looked like. Couldn't say how tall she was. Couldn't say how large she was. Couldn't say anything to a dark-skinned black female. You said you met her in the mall, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Isn't it true back in 2015, during an interview you said you met her at Wendy's.
I didn't hear you.
At Wendy's.
Yes, we met in Wendy's parking lot and went to Governor Square Mall.
Oh, so now we've gone from, we didn't meet her at the mall, we met her at Wendy's and then went to the mall.
Yes, we went from Wendy's parking lot to Governor Square Mall.
It seems to me, Mr. Santos, that you're adopting your story and what you're telling this jury to fit the facts as they're presented to you to try and answer every question you can.
No, sir.
Much like whenever you admitted first time for these murders and said that Angel Avila was involved in these murders after you saw that there was a court proceeding having to do with the name of Angel Avila, correct?
No, sir. I never actually saw a court proceeding. So you must understand that when these murders took place, I was placed in confinement, which means I had no access to my my email
And
or
then
the newspaper.
And then in August of 2017, there was another court proceeding, was there not?
2017?
August 2017.
Yes, sir.
Early August 2017.
Yes, sir.
At which time there was another name that came forward, Mr. Paramore, the person you called Jit, right?
Yes, sir.
And then it wasn't until after that, in August 17th, that all of a sudden you wrote a letter to Judge Hankton saying that Paramore was the person that one of the persons that you ordered to kill.
No, that's not entirely true.
That's not.
No. I pled the fifth before Paramore even came to court, sir. The reason
But you
why...
never mentioned the name DeMario Paramore. In fact, you can't even remember his name now until you wrote that letter after the court proceeding in which Mr. Paramore's name came up during court, correct?
I don't recall when I actually wrote the letter, but I do recall that when he became a part of this court proceeding, I pled the fifth, thinking that he may implement me and my organization more. I don't want to use his name.
And you're saying you weren't keeping up with the internet or any articles that are coming out about this case?
No, not from prison. No, my prison is based in Virginia.
Sure about that?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true after that court proceeding in August of 2017, you actually wrote a letter to correspondent Carl Edders from the Tallahassee Democrat because he was living here reporting it?
Yeah, I've written him quite a few times.
Yeah, because he's the one that's reporting this particular case and where you got it from the reports, correct?
Yes, he's never written me back, but I've written him quite a few times. I sent him an email once, and another time I sent him a letter.
Sent him that email, didn't you?
Yes, I had somebody else to send him an email, though. I didn't.
You knew he was the one covering the court proceedings, right?
No, he wrote something about me in a newspaper before I left this jail, before I left Tallahassee, before I got to the prison, and I had my secretary to forward the email to him. In Virginia, we don't get Tallahassee news, unfortunately, so I don't know anything about what's going on in this.
Mr. Santos, you've been diagnosed. We've already been over this. Delusional, grandiose, narcissistic, schizophrenic. Hear voices in your head. confessing to murders that didn't occur, confessing to murders you couldn't have done, now confessing to another murder you had no involvement in. Isn't that true?
No, sir, it's not.
And you say your person that you had contact with is named Carlos.
Yes, sir.
You introduce your name here today as James Santos, correct?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true your middle name is Carlos? You are Carlos, are you not?
You mean Carlos Hernandez or not? No, I'm Carlos Santos.
I have no further questions.
Read the rest. Here we go, John. Yeah. I consider sitting standing up. Buddy, be seated. Mr. Prince.
Thank you, Your Honor. So my first request is to be able to redirect.
Put that microphone up where.
I'm sorry. My first request is to be able to redirect Mr. Santos regarding his frequent communications with Ms. Peters via U.S. mail leading up to the murders, and to introduce those letters as evidence of their relationship. After introducing those letters, I would like to ask Mr. Santos not to go through them in great detail and explain every little thing, but to generally explain what he was trying to accomplish with those letters. Similarly, I'd like to have him explain that he was in contact with Ms. Peters through that Michael Johnson Core Links account while he was at FTC, and to introduce those emails as well. They were previously introduced in the July 27, 2017 hearing, again to corroborate the existence of his relationship with Ms. Peters. There's a second report from Dr. Hudson as well. Or do you want me to just stay on this issue first, Your Honor? Or
No,
go-
let's cover
Okay.
them all.
The next thing I was going to ask about is I wanted to admit the other report from Dr. Hudson, which is dated August 1st as well, wherein
August 3rd,
August 1st, 2017.
so it predates or postdates the other report.
What date was yours?
I
I think they were both dated August 1st, I think.
What we do?
Did you put it on?
What?
What did you
All evidence.
Anyway,
do?
let's
August
make a
3rd,
list.
2017 is the one that I introduced, Your Honor.
So this is August 1st, 2017. The conclusion and recommendation, Mr. Santos demonstrated a factual and rational appreciation of the legal process, and there was no evidence of mental illness or intellectual deficit that would interfere with his capacity to provide meaningful and relevant testimony. Going on,
Okay, just, let's kind of make a list here, all right? What's next?
all right. Mr. Fuchs dealt with one of the things I was going to ask about, which was the prior consistent statement, prior inconsistent statement, so those are fine. I suppose this isn't particularly relevant now, but I'll at least raise the issue regarding Whitfield, who testified, proffered testimony at the motion hearing halfway through the last trial. Mr. Whitfield testified to an out-of-court admission regarding the murders that took place in like 2012, 2011, 2012, shortly after the murders took place. Mr. Whitfield is not available to testify. He is in Leon County Jail, but my understanding is he's been deemed incompetent at this point.
That doesn't have anything to do with Mr. Santos.
I'm sorry?
That doesn't have anything to do with, let's deal with issues that deal with Mr. Santos at this
Yeah.
point.
I guess the only three issues then pertinent to Mr. Santos, are the letters that he sent to Ms. Peters, the emails, and then the other report of Dr. Hudson.
All right, well, let's deal with, the Hudson report, does the state object to the other report coming in?
There. I don't think
We'll
I'll base
admit
it.
that, it's defense exhibit, what would it be?
It will be
What's the next
28.
offense exhibit? 28?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll admit that. How many letters are you talking about?
There was 5 envelopes, Your Honor. These were all a part of State's Exhibit 98 in the last trial. So far, only the envelope from November 17th.
Well, let me have what it is you're wanting to offer.
Yes, sir. You want me to bring it to you?
Yeah.
May I approach it?
No.
Your Honor, if we can get clarification, are you trying to put the letters in, or are we trying to put the envelopes?
Well, that's what I was just trying to get clear. I wanted to see what he was handing me.
I was asking for both, Your Honor. Both of them were part of the exhibit last time.
And what's the significance of the letters?
They demonstrate the existence of the relationship between Mr. Santos and Ms. Peters and his efforts to get her to pay back the debt. As we discussed previously, most of those letters are incomprehensible ramblings that you have to have an understanding of what code he's using to decipher.
Which one has discussion about paying the debt back? It's not in that one.
I don't think it's stated explicitly at all. Just like with the email.
Well, what is implicitly stated?
I can't tell the court that right off the top of my head.
Or what's the state's position?
Your Honor, I'd like an opportunity to review those letters before I.
And I think I'm gonna need a little more information, Mr. Prince. I mean, if there's something in there where he's discussing her paying back a drug debt, I certainly would consider, putting that in evidence, but you're gonna need to point that to me. I mean, these are,
Yes, sir.
very fine print, seem to be fairly rambling, nonsense, most of what I've looked at so far. I'll give you a few minutes to find that.
Yes, sir.
I'll let y'all go over them. All right, what are the emails you're talking about?
The emails essentially do the same thing. He's talking about $50,000 in cash for a vehicle. He previously went through these emails at the July 27, 2017 hearing and explained what the code meant and how he's trying to get to go to Atlanta, her to go to Atlanta. These emails corroborate that and also further demonstrate the existence of the relationship between him and Ms. Peters.
What's the state's position on the emails?
I'm not clear on what the understanding is. It's my understanding, if I'm not mistaken, he's saying the emails say one thing, but they actually say something else, and I don't think that that's admissible because it doesn't make sense. And the probative certainly outweigh the.
Right.
Well, my position, Your Honor, is the state's asserted he doesn't know Brandy Peters.
Right, and I would say that the fact that he's communicating with her, I believe, is relevant.
Yes, sir.
The substance of what he's saying is not necessarily relevant. Unless there is some specific discussion about what he's said here about drug debt, I could imagine that would be relevant, but you're gonna have to point that to me.
He doesn't say anything about a drug debt in any of these emails. What he's talking about is, his testimony previously was that the language he's using here, talking about different vehicles, cash for vehicles.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. Can we remove Mr. Santos from this? Given Mr. Santos is.
Yeah, let's.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Santos' testimony at that hearing, to my recollection, was that he was using these references to paying for vehicles as code for you need to pay back your debt. There's also a discussion here, I'd have to find it, but he's trying to get her to go to Atlanta. He's referring to something in Atlanta. I'll find that as well, which is consistent with what he said before. And I would again assert that her responses is relevant as well, indicating that she doesn't, she's not comfortable with this guy that Mr. Santos is trying to send her to meet. She indicates that she has concern for the exact quote is, "My life means a lot to me as well as my 3 kids." Further indicating that not only does Ms. Peters have a relationship with Mr. Santos, but that she's aware of the impending danger to herself as a result of that relationship.
Let's talk about the emails, Mr. Fuchs.
Your Honor, I think that that's what Mr. Prince would like them to say, but what he's saying is I'm not gonna ride with a stranger up to Atlanta because I don't know the guy, so I'm kind of concerned for my life. We don't have her here to put this in context. Mr. Santos is going to then have to interpret them as to what Ms. Peters meant by that, and that's pure speculation. And granted, he does that, but.
Well, I guess, okay.
But I agree with you, well, what you said earlier, the communication between the two is certainly a rot for cross-examination, but the contents are not.
All right. So if the state wants to, this would, on the letters, what I'd like y'all, these are letters that are recovered at her house, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that my
Yes.
understanding? What I'd like to do is arrive at a stipulation that there were letters found at her house, however many letters there are from Mr. Santos that were discovered as part of the search. I don't think the contents of them are relevant and causes a bunch of confusion. So if the state wants to agree to work out some stipulation to that effect, I'll announce the stipulation and sustain the objection as to the letters. If we can't work some stipulation out, I guess we have to put the letters in. So I'll give you all a chance to discuss that. I'd like you to write something up to that effect. Are you interested in that, Mr. Fuchs?
Yes.
Okay. As to the email, I'm just going to have to hear his testimony, what he's saying about the emails, before I make a ruling whether they're admissible or not. But
Yes.
certainly not going to prohibit you from asking him about them. Depending on what he says, I'll admit him or not admit him.
Yes, sir.
All right. So those are the 3 issues outstanding.
Yes,
Any
sir.
other issues at this point, Ms. Santos?
No, sir. Would you like us to proffer that testimony so that I'm not doing it
No,
again?
I don't think there's anything wrong with you asking him if he did emails with her. That's certainly relevant, that there was pre-existing communication as to, what he says they were about. We'll have to hear what he has to say, whether I'm going to admit them or not.
Yes, sir.
Right? Give you about 10 minutes, see if you can work out a stipulation and look over the emails. All right?
Yes,
Take 10 minutes.